Welcome, everybody, to the Agency Operators Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Matt Snyder of Brands Excel. How are you doing, Matt?
Hey, Pasha. Doing great. Excited to be here today and have this conversation with you.
Awesome. I'm excited to chat as well. So, you have a little bit of history in the Amazon space and omnichannel, D2C, e-com. You were a part of Prosper. I'm really curious how that all unfolded. Why did you start Brands Excel? Are you feeling the pressure of all the other agencies in the space, or you guys are kind of carving your own name? I'd love to hear and kind of get into more of that.
Yeah. So I've been in this Amazon space for quite some time, about a little over 15 years now total. So I originally got started, actually of all things, my career started. The jersey behind me is kind of a tribute to my first career. I actually started in sports, worked for the Dallas Mavericks. And Mark Cuban was talking about, he was advising all these, before Shark Tanks, he was advising all these other local CEOs and founders in the Dallas Metroplex area. And one of the companies he was advising was the founder CEO of a e-commerce site called Woot.com. And so if you don't know Woot, Woot was like the original daily deal website. Back in the day, we literally sold one item a day. So for that 24 hours, it was like the lowest price you could buy that item, anywhere on the internet. So we grew as cult following. We had at one point about 1 million people who come to our website a day, and
Wow.
got the attention of Amazon. So Amazon acquired the business in 2010, and that kind of was the launch of my Amazon journey and development from there. I spent about 7 years with a brand called Veridesk, and so they were very successful D2C brand and looking to grow on Amazon. So I joined their company in 2017, where we led all marketplace development. We grew to a mid 8-figure business on Amazon, and talking with other brands, the problem I always kept hearing, and could totally relate with it, was just this, a brand of where you have an Amazon, where we're managing media, we're managing product pages, but then there's also running Amazon inside of a larger organization where there's other priorities, there's other strategies in play. And so it was having to kind of run a business inside of a larger business and getting that buy-in from those other department heads. And this was just a recurring theme that I kept hearing from a lot of other people in my position. So we started Brands Excel to kind of bridge that gap and provide a different business operations that I saw missing in the space. There's many great agencies in this space that can provide top-notch media and SEO and creatives, and those were all like valuable services and key pieces to Amazon's success. If you think like the Amazon flywheel, we all hear the references to the Amazon flywheel, and those are core pieces of the flywheel. And so the flywheel really is kind of built around traffic conversion, and then the third piece, fulfillment, which I say fits into the operations piece. And that's our kind of our value add. We do best in class media, conversion optimizations, but when a brand needs that additional support to help with things like API connections or ERP implementations, inventory forecasting, building out business models and so forth, because what we have found is when those pieces are not in place, an agency can do an amazing job on those other pieces, the media and SEO, but those are all downstream from operations. So when operations is not efficient, you really not set up for success as an agency or as a performance marketer when you're kind of playing, with say, a hand tied behind your back, right? Because you don't have control or influence over these other pieces, and those other pieces directly impact those parts of the flywheel. So, so excited to have the conversation. That's kind of the thought today is, for those agencies out there where you're media only, or maybe you're doing media and some SEO support. I'm sure you felt the pain points of these operations and these pieces of the business. But when you don't have direct ownership, how can you at least have some influence and some advisement into these pieces that really will later set you up for success improve your performance, but also reduce that churn rate that we as the agency owners are always fighting for. Is how do we reduce that churn rate? How do we up the performance level and keep our clients happy? So excited to have this conversation. Just share a few ways of how we've approached this, and some ways that some agency owners out there can walk away or implement some of these tactics into their solution and service offerings.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that. And I always say exactly the same thing, that operations is at the heart of it all, because you can have that, like that ads component is not that terribly difficult, and it's so easy to find an ads person. Creative, a little bit more. I mean, I shouldn't say ads are very easy, because there's ads and there's ads, but
Yeah,
there's different ways to manage it. In theory, it's easy. It's about the consistency and understanding the marketplace, but
absolutely.
there's lots of talent out there. To build creative and to build good SEO, a little bit more difficult, because it's several components together, where you have the textual and the technical part of it, and then also the visual, graphic, and video.
Yeah.
But then the operations is so dynamic, and understanding, like, just like under the hood of the Amazon account, like understanding truly fees, understanding truly cases, account health, performance ratings, and all of the options that Amazon gives us, and then the business beyond that. So that's what I'm curious to hear, kind of some of the levers that you guys pull on the operational side, that give you that, first of all, visibility into the account to see where you can be of service, and to just help your customers or your clients know what they're potentially missing out on. Because that's the biggest thing, is like when you're hiring somebody,
Yeah.
you're hoping that they know things that you don't even know that you don't know, right? So that's always the goal. And then obviously the things that you need help with. But that's where, like, I find just in my life, even outside of agency, right? Like you hire a contractor to help you with your house or whatever, they start telling you stuff that you weren't even aware of. That's when you're like, oh man, this guy's saving me. So I'm curious
Right.
yeah.
So with like a contract, you get your quote, and you get a project, and then you get in the project, you're like, well, we found this, and now it's right. It's always those hidden costs, and so that's not what we want to do here. We don't want it to hidden costs, but you're right. That's um, it's funny. I have the saying where it's oftentimes brands, their ability to scale profitably or continue to scale isn't due to poor marketing or advertising. It's really to poor business operations.
Mm.
And as a performance marketer, um, that's we see this all the time. We'll go in and we'll do an audit for a brand, and they come to us with these frustrations of the agency's not doing this, or we feel like we're lacking this in our marketing and performance, and we're seeing high ACoS. And it's easy to point the fingers back at the agency or the marketer. But when we go in and we do our audits, oftentimes what we're finding is, sure, there's some structural things, whether it's campaign structures or some bid strategies, but oftentimes it's not that there's a big issue that we see in the performance of the advertising or the strategy or the approach that an agency was taking. It was really to these underlying challenges behind the business that the brands themselves are not addressing or are aware of. But I'd also place that fault back on the agency of not having those signal indicators themselves. You may not be responsible for things such as inventory or catalog management, variation pricing, these type of things. But if you don't have at least an insight into that to give you those signals as this is an issue that the brand needs to address, you're exposing yourself to that risk and the impact that can have on that. So, a few ways that we do this is we use various different tools, and happy to kind of share some of those if you'd like.
Yeah.
But there's also some in-house tools and things that we've approached this. So one way we've done that is our ad partner for our ad tech is IntentWise. And so with IntentWise, one of the things that we take advantage of is they have the analytic API connections, right? So with that API connection, we have the ability to kind of build out our own reports, dashboards using Looker Studio, or even tying those into worksheets, Google Worksheets. And so when we do our inventory forecasting, for some of our brands, they want us to own it all. So in some cases we do. We own all the forecasting. We put in all those variables of lead times and inbound receiving times and days on hands and everything else. For other times, they have something in house that they're managing that, but we still we still keep track of that. We still want to know, give us the, help us understand your reorder rates and all that, and we will keep an eye on that, just so that when I see an item starting to come out of stock a little bit, we can ask the question, hey, we notice, one of your top sellers is at risk. It's great. Media is doing its job. It's growing in BSR rank. We're growing in sales. It's fantastic. But how do we make sure that the brand is also taking that into account? So as we can get ahead of that with creating those. And another great one we've used is called KPOC, and KPOC has a fantastic inventory dashboard. So we've used both of those to help us keep that forward-looking eye on inventory, so we can get ahead of that for our partners. The other key one here, and this is a fairly easy one to kind of look at it, but looking at variations. And obviously this is one of those areas where brands and sellers in the past have definitely abused variation. And Amazon has definitely taken action on that. So I don't want to advise anybody here to do something that's outside the TOA with Amazon. But with that, there are oftentimes when we do our audits, we'll find opportunities where we can bring product listings together to make it a better discoverable option for our customers. But also just kind of with that is basic SEO. And we talked, obviously SEO is kind of what we mentioned here in terms of going beyond that. But at least having visualization into where are we ranking internally and how does that feed into our media campaign. Data Dive is what we use for our tool research there, and they've been a great partner for us. Lastly is the price. So buy box off Amazon pricing. So that is something we have kind of tied in through our API using, again, back to IntentWise. So we just built out a buy box alert, and obviously you have that in Amazon. You can go in and kind of see the price alerts if it's off Amazon pricing. But that's something we have that gives us the alert right away when we lose buy box to either another seller or off Amazon pricing. But the faster we can get that awareness, the sooner we can alert the brand and hopefully get some type of resolution. But all those are directly impacts to our ability to spend efficiently. If there's one on this list where I'd say like focus on this as an agency, I'd almost point back to inventory. This is what we see having the greatest impact on media performance, because we can, again, have a great strategy, amazing execution, meet the client performance expectations. But if it goes out of stock and that rank drops down, we not only have to spin it back up, but oftentimes what we see is it costs more the second time to get back to that same level of performance. And then your dollars you could be using to continue to scale and grow, you're now spending to recapture that position that you had previously. And if your commission is based on performance or any of those measurables, that's costing you as an agency money, where you could be, again, with not too much effort, at least getting some type of visibility and be able to give an advisement on that to your brand partners.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, I think Amazon is almost entirely about momentum. So it's like you hurt their trust by being out of stock. Are they going to trust you right away again? You're just going to get out of stock again. Because Amazon is always playing that game of how can we make this incrementally better? And that is their motive for everything that they do. And so even a 0.0001% increase is significant because they're dealing in billions.
Yep.
So they factor the rank based on so many different things that they use to score it, and everything has different weight. And I think that consistency is the most important piece of that, which
Absolutely.
is comprised of multiple different factors. But that is, I'm fully in agreement with you that inventory is the most important thing. It's the thing that will kill your profit if you're not getting priced correctly and your fees aren't set up right, or inventory is everything. It's the blood. It
emphasizing on the consistency. I think it's spot on there. You can go out of stock, the first time, and maybe your recovery rate is a week or so, and then this maybe it happens again a month later, and it's a little bit slower. But the more frequent that's happening, the more signals you're giving to the algorithm that there's lower trust here. We're going to favor somebody who has a higher in-stock rate. And again, when oftentimes, agency partners and friends that have this space, they don't touch that part at all. That's not part of their service offering. And it doesn't have to be a addition to your team, but I think this can be at least as something, a signal, an insight, a report that at least you're sharing and making sure that you have visibility as well. Even if you don't report it back to your brand, making sure that you have the visibility, so if you do see an issue, bring that to the attention of your brand partner, because it, oftentimes that's where it starts that customer experience flywheel of, okay, we're missing our top line performers, now we're missing our bottom line performance. It's got to be the agency's fault, right?
Yeah.
It's always easier to blame the agency, and so do what you can to put these alerts and these risk mitigators in place to ensure that your top line performance really is sustainable and not at risk to things that are outside of your control.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's so many technological solutions for most of these markers. So whatever we can't fit technology into to solve, we just have a VA that's assigned and to go through all the accounts, all of the listings, and look for certain things. So that way, and we have an internal alerts channel. And so that way, every single morning when everybody gets to their desk, it's like we know what's going on all the accounts, anything that we need to pay attention to, any urgent cases, and we can jump right on it, making sure that stock is coming in, listings are all healthy, no buy box problems, no unwanted competitors, like everything's running smoothly. And there's days when things are great, and there's days when things are not great. So at least we know about it, and we can move on it. But to me, sometimes it's just like surprising how these things are really like simple and so critical to the heart of the business. Yeah, like one thing we use is called a tool called Prophecy, which is an AI repricing tool. That one is really great. I highly recommend looking at price as a way to really move the needle in business. And it's not necessarily change the price once in a while. Having a dynamic price shift mechanism is a very powerful tool to adjust volumes. So if you're overstocked, drop the price. If you're understocked, and raise the price. That's like pretty simple mechanics. But then there's also competition and what your competitors are doing. And then there's also, seasonality and events and deals and all the other things. So you kind of take everything into consideration, and you set some floor and ceiling, and then you talk to them about your goals, and boom. And it's worked for us. And it's not something that I was using up until more recently. And I've actually really seen the impact of that. Before, we would just, kind of, let's drop the price for a time and see what happens. But this is a lot more advanced. And it's with the advancement of AI technology that this thing could even exist.
We've looked at Prophecy as well, too, and definitely echo everything you said. And again, all those reactions to pricing, whether it's we're slower, moving slow, is priced down, or price up, again, all leads back to your inventory. Because all those have impact of lead times and replenishment times as well too. Kind of, there's another piece of this that I wanted to call attention to, because it's not have a great example, and it's as you begin a partnership with a brand of doing kind of an audit. Oftentimes, as an agency, we're kind of limiting our audit, our scope to, is it just media, or maybe we're, as I shared earlier, maybe we're touching a little bit into SEO, into inventory, but we like to really do a full audit of what are all the capabilities within this brand and company. And one example is large brand, I can't name it, but they're a large 9-figure brand on Amazon and D2C. And as we were doing their audit, we were seeing all these stockouts. And so as we started asking some questions like, well, what's going on here? And they were 100% FBA at the time, and they were explaining to us that these items are just moving so fast, and we haven't been able to get ahead of the production timeline, so that as it comes in, I don't want to put that inventory into Amazon, because it takes the time to inbound ship, receiving, when I know I can just put it on my D2C page and it's going to sell instantly. So we brought the question to them, like, well, what if you just did fulfill by merchant? So then it's still in your warehouse. You can flip it on instantly on Amazon as well as your D2C page. It's not going to be prime. That's okay. We understand that there's a conversion impact to that, but on something like this where there's such a high velocity demand, you're still going to get sales. So we worked with their technology team. We helped them set up their FBM through NetSuite within about a 14-day period. We turned it on right before the October Prime Day, big best deals event, whatever they decided to call it that year. And between then to end of Q4 peak season, they did an additional 2.5 million. Now, again, this is a $100 million brand, but that's still 2.5 million that
Good.
one, the agency got to put those ad dollars, they got to increase ad dollars towards those products. It improved the top line, improved the bottom line. It was a win-win. And that wasn't something that if we hadn't kind of gone deeper and asked some questions and understood the full capabilities of the brands and its operations, that's not something that we would have been able to advise or help them implement. But again, it's just going on, asking us questions, dive a little deeper than our current scope to help us find those opportunities that could be big game changers for brands.
So you opened up FBM, and just to understand, like they have limited inventory. They would have sold through all that inventory on their website. You're saying you opened up the FBM listing and they sold instead of on their website on Amazon, or is that just in addition to?
So their approach was that it was more about they didn't want to have inventory that was unsellable while it was getting shipped into Amazon. They were fine selling it on Amazon. They just didn't want to have a dead time of that when the inventory was not sellable.
That time is money right there. That kind of locked in period.
Exactly. So they were fine making it available on D2C. Like, yeah, they're giving up some margin, but they're also the mindset of we want to provide the best customer experience of let them choose where they prefer to purchase. And if that's Amazon, great, we want to make it available. But we also want to type inventory that is moving so fast that we want that cash turn faster. And so that was what FBM allowed, is the improvement of cash flow return back to them versus that dead time of having it going into FBA.
Got it. Love it. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, simple things. Like to us, it's simple, but to the brand, they're not thinking of it that way. And so it's like, that's that eureka moment. And it's like, boom, right? Take advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah. And huge win for not just us, but for, our brand director, where, he can go to the executive team and like, here's what we just did, helps them hit their goals and makes them look like a winner, which again, going back to, we want to reduce friction, churn opportunities. The more that we can help our brand leadership achieve those goals and wins, the better it is for us as agency owners.
Nice. Okay. And Matt, if somebody wanted to reach out, chat with you guys, what's the best place to find you?
Yeah, so also you can always find me on LinkedIn. Pretty easy to find there. Under Matthew Snyder. Brands Excelled is our website. You can always reach me at matt@brandsexcelled.com as well.
Awesome. And you guys do some free audits?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we like to offer as well is we're big believers in just getting market insights as to how our brands performing relative to their category competitors. And so we work with Smart Scout. We use their tools and services to do those researches. So yeah, if a brand is interested in just seeing how's the category performing compared to themselves, or if they're not selling on Amazon yet and they want to get some insight into what does the market opportunity look like on Amazon, we'd be glad to offer one of those reports.
Very nice. Check it out, everybody. Matt Snyder, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for the time. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Catch everybody on the next one.